they're really close to each other, and I'm recording this one just started now. So they're really close to each other. So this one we'll go over. We'll get to kind of how this works, but you can sign up for those as well. But really quick, before we get started, just so you know, your microphones are turned off and your cameras are disabled. But if you do have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and whoever's not talking, myself or Lauren, will see that and either answer you in the chat or alert the person who is talking, and then we can answer it live for you. So if you have any questions, please let us know. And then we will send you a copy of this PowerPoint, as well as any handout or links that we might mention throughout the PowerPoint as we move through this webinar. And so please get back to us if you have any questions. We'll follow up with those emails. Your presenters tonight, we have Lauren with us. Hey, Lauren.
Hello.
Hello. And myself, Jason. And we are staff members at the Illinois Learn to Hunt program that's based out of the University of Illinois. And our main job is to educate people in Illinois on how to hunt. So we're adult focused education program. We cover the whole state. And we just got done going through some of our in-person workshops here this spring. And now we got these webinars for turkey hunting right before season starts up. And we're excited to get out. We have a few mentored hunts planned, and we have a few tags ourselves that we're going to go and try to fill. So we're excited for the season to get here. So first off, this is Turkey 101. So today we're going to be really hitting up on kind of what the wild eastern wild turkey is our target species in this state, and we'll be talking about that and then differences between the different turkeys across the country, and kind of a little bit more about the game species, and then we'll go over the regulations that you need to know before going out and hunting, and how to find land access, because that's number one issue if you're getting new into hunting. You got to know where to go. So we'll talk land access, and then we'll dip our toes into turkey vocalization, which we'll talk more about in number 102, and also the turkey calling workshop or webinar that we have coming up. So that's kind of what we're doing today. So we're going to be focusing a lot on those regs, and land access is going to be a big bulk of today's webinar. And then we'll be talking about a review of this webinar, and then we'll go into decoy placement and more hunting strategies in 102, as well as get different gear you may need to go turkey hunting. So that's what we talk about in 102. And then we'll have the turkey calling workshop, where we go through the different calls that we have and people may use while hunting and how they're utilized. All right, so Lauren's going to start us off here going over the different lingos that you might see if you're new to turkey hunting.
Yeah, so there's a few terms that if you're gonna follow along or watch other content about turkey hunting, it's helpful to know. The first is beard. It's the hairy protrusion from the chest that you can see in this bottom, I guess my bottom left. On the turkey, it's actually a feather, not hair. We call it a beard, but so that's going to be on your toms, which are the mature males. Spurs are the bony hooks on the back of the legs you can see in this image. They're a way that you can kind of age turkeys. I will say for beards and spurs, hens can have them, but it's very rare for both. I think for beards, it's like 10% of hens, and I think for spurs, it's about 1%. So don't worry about it too much. Just know that it can be on both. Fan is a spread of tail feathers, like you can see on this top. I don't know if Jason can point to it with his little thing. You can see those feathers on that tom. And then a jake is an immature male. A hen is a female. And then there's also jennies, which are immature females. We don't really talk about them, but just if you were curious what the equivalent is. So,
Yep. Can you see my cursor if I go over it, Lauren, like that?
mhm.
Okay, great.
Yep, yep, makes it a little easier.
No, for sure.
So, wild turkey ecology, range the 2000s. NWTF, the National Wild Turkey Federation, is largely responsible for a lot of their conservation efforts, but also different state Department of Natural Resources, including in Illinois. Um, there are several subspecies you can see on this map here. And there's different things through NWTF. So if you sign up and then you get all four US subspecies, you can get the Grand Slam and you get like a little pin. Same thing for the Royal Slam and so on and so forth. But it's quite a lot of opportunities if you're interested in turkeys, and they're all a little bit different. So
Yeah, it's a fun species if you want to start traveling while hunting. I know a lot of people do it for various things, but turkey's one that you can actually get different species throughout the country, and tags tend to be much more affordable than big game species. So, if that's something that you want to do, is kind of use hunting as an excuse to get going and get outdoors, maybe go camping in a different state or get out. You definitely can do that. So it's something that people tend to flock to. Birds.
You can all see they're all fairly, I mean, if you're unfamiliar with turkeys, most of them are fairly similar looking. There are definitely differences. The Eastern is the one we have in Illinois. Personally, I'm a big fan of the ocellated. I think that that thing is gorgeous. It reminds me of a peacock. That would be the first one on my list besides the Eastern. But we're looking at the more traditional uh, Thanksgiving style turkey with what you're looking at.
Yeah, and technically, a lot of people say it's the hardest to kill. They tend to be the smartest ones, and hardest ones to call in. So, if you're able to get Eastern, you should be able to get the rest. The rest is just got to be able to get to them. And the oscillated one is down in Mexico, so you got to travel out of the country to go
Yeah,
get one
yeah.
of
So
those.
that one you
Yeah,
wouldn't even be in the Grand Slam. That's you
no,
got to go outside,
yeah,
but it is part of it.
it is for sure. Yeah, back that's down here in the Yucatan Peninsula.
Mexico, world.
Yep.
Yeah. So in Illinois, there were around 1900, 1910, actually no or assumed to be no wild turkeys left. There were reintroduction efforts that began in the late 1950s to transplant them from other states. They did initially try to introduce like hybrids between farmed, like domestic and wild turkeys, and that completely failed.
Hmm.
So they started introduction then, and it was down, a lot of them were down in the Shawnee. You can see in this picture, it's our boss Dan. They capture them with nets, and would, relocate them. So to kind of recolonize and
Well, Lauren's frozen on my computer. I'm not sure if she's frozen on other people's computers or if mine's the one that's frozen. So, um, if you guys can put in your chat, oh, there you go. Lauren, can you hear me okay?
yes, when did I cut out?
I don't know. You said
Okay.
Dan, and then they recolonized them. Go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, we went from none to over 100,000 wild turkeys in Illinois. They're all Eastern. It's a big deal. A big conservation success story and a good example of, Department of Natural Resources and hunting working together to, bring back a species.
No, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely a conservation effort success story. Going from no turkeys to now over 100,000 turkeys. I know the first modern turkey season was in 1970. So they did not have turkey hunting in this state from 1903 to 1970s when they brought it back. So that's a whole generation of folks that never knew legal turkey hunting in the state. And yeah, to have it back now and to go from, I think 25 were originally harvested in the first season in 1970 down in the Shawnee locations of the state, to now over 18,000 annually harvested across the state is awesome. So it is a little tricky to get tags for turkeys, but they are overmanaged specifically because we didn't have them before, and we're trying to get the population up to where they're at now. Talking to the turkey biologist Luke Garver, he believes that we're kind of at carrying capacity. We're going to be meeting carrying capacity here soon, because the population kind of going up and down, and it's kind of getting into its equilibrium at this point of about 150,000 turkeys for the habitat that we have that can support them right now. So we're going to hopefully keep seeing turkeys doing well. As of right now, they're on the upswing. We had the largest turkey harvest numbers I think ever last year, at least in the past 15 years, if not forever. So we're looking good right now.
Okay, so some of the key behavior we're going to focus on in this webinar, especially for the spring season, is it's when turkeys breed. So that's when the gobbling is what males are doing. That's the kind of iconic turkey noise you're going to hear. Think of spring. Um, in the fall, they're not gobbling. They're not trying. Gobblers aren't trying to draw hens to them. So the gobbling techniques or calls aren't really needed, or aren't really going to do anything. They focus more on feeding. And in that season, you can hunt uh, either sex.
Hmm.
In the springtime, that's more of the like calling back and forth. And for that, it's bearded turkeys because, like I said, sometimes hens do have beards. So it's like with deer with antler and antlerless, just because things do happen occasionally.
Yep.
Um, they are most active at sunup and sundown, so they're crepuscular. They have extremely good eyesight, so keep that in mind. So not just with movement, but also they can see color. So that's why you don't have to wear blaze orange. Although we always do recommend when you're moving in to your spot and out, especially if you harvest a bird or if you're setting up your decoys, or moving your decoys to wear orange and then just tuck it in your backpack just because, safety first. Um, their sense of smell is not very good, so it's not like with deer where you have to douse yourself in the scent spray or worry about the wind or anything like that. But their hearing is okay. It's not, as good as their eyes, but I wouldn't advise being super loud.
Sure. Yep. And that crepuscular word is always one of my favorite vocab words when I learned that the first time. So basically, instead of being nocturnal or diurnal, they're crepuscular, similar to deer and similar to fish. A lot of times, whenever you get out and you go fishing, it's usually in the sunrise, sunset times or when the fish are actively feeding. So you can throw that word around if you want to.
So, like I said, depending on the season, it's helpful. Well, in general, you should know how to identify male and female turkeys. And the beard, like, does make ID a little bit easier, but there are also other things you can look for males. Their heads, you can see in this picture compared to the hens, their heads are much brighter, usually red, white, or blue, so very, very patriotic. You can see the snoot a little bit in this photo dangling off. It's basically the part that hangs over their beak, and it can grow or shorten depending on how excited they are. They're dark brown black, kind of like very shiny. I mean, I know the hens look a little more shiny, but I think that's just the lighting in this photo.
Mhm.
Like I said, we have the beard. They gobble, and then their other big thing is the drum, which is, they'll do their spit and drum, which is something you almost more feel. It's not very loud, but when it happens, it's very, very close, so it's very exciting. We'll go into more into that, I think, when we get to the vocalizations. And then they strut, as you can see in this picture, with their tail fanned out, and they'll drop their wings. And sometimes you can find sign from those wings being dragged in the dirt. They're also larger than hens. Hens, however, have more of a blue-gray head, no snood. They also tend to have little feathers on their heads as well. If you think about the hen, the fact that she's trying to hide to be able to like sit on top of her nests and not be seen by predators, whereas the males are more showy. That's a good way if you have two next to each other and you're not sure, that's a good way to kind of think about it. They tend to be a light rusty brown, generally no beard. They do yelps, clucks, and cuts. They do not strut or fan their tail, and they're much smaller than the toms overall.
Mhm. Yeah, and the hens are just overall more drab because of the nesting aspect, right? So did you say that already, Lauren? I'm sorry, I was letting
Mhm.
people in a minute. Okay, good. I can't
Nope,
read
you're
and
good.
listen at the same time.
Nope, you're good. They're trying to hide their babies and not be eaten.
Yes. Yeah. You see that a lot across cultures. So, I mean, looking at images like this might be a good way to help you identify and get better at picking out which ones are which, because when they're in a flock like this, it's kind of hard to pick them out. And it's really important, especially in the spring when, like we said, it has to be a bearded bird to harvest. So, keep an eye out and be able to pick them apart. You got anything to say about that, Lauren?
No, I definitely agree. I think these are pretty good pictures. And like I said, if you look at the heads, like I said, you can see a little bit of the feathers, but compared to the snood right here is tiny. You can definitely tell the differences. But the color is a big one.
Hmm.
If you look at these guys, I mean, these are definitely more of a brown, dusty kind of blend in. So versus standing out.
Yeah, like if you're driving around, you see them in a field from far off, you're going to be able to see the more black colored birds versus the brown hens, the black toms and jakes. They kind of stick out a little bit more, and you get an eye for it for sure. You're like, oh, that's a male turkey out there, and
Yeah, and
maybe you got to
sometimes
call
lighting
someone
is
to get
hard.
some
Like
access.
yeah, and sometimes yeah, and sometimes lighting is hard. It's like so when it's like if you're under like a more shadow, it can definitely be a little trickier, which is why we kind of try to tell people like look for size. You can see these hens
Hmm.
are, quite a bit smaller. and their behavior as well, and the noises they make too.
Hmm.
So with turkeys, it's actually nice because you can tell based on the feathers that you find or the scat, whether it's male or female, if whether it's a hen or a gobbler. For the breast feathers, the males are black tipped because, like we talked about, they're more of that black color. Whereas for the females, it's more brown or buffy tipped. For when you find wing feathers, it doesn't really help you with sex, but it can help you determine age. So don't worry about that too much. It's just, it doesn't really matter for this. It's just if you get a turkey, that's some of the information they will ask you. So when you check it in. So for scat, hens is more like cones shaped soft serve ice cream. Whereas Tom's scat is long and skinny, often J shaped. It just has to do with how their anatomy is. So that's the bigger difference. And I mean, obviously they're not all going to be perfect like this. Sometimes it's a blob or like a splat, but you get the
Right.
idea.
Yeah, it's just an interesting fact that you can actually tell turkey sex by their excrement.
Yeah, because it's one of the few things you can.
Yeah.
So in the spring and summer, which is what we care about right now, the toms split up for breeding season, and smaller groups of hens will kind of stick around with the tom, kind of doing their own thing. The tom's going to be trying to draw them to him. Throughout the spring and summer, they spend a lot of time in fields and open woods. They're looking for low grasses and weedy vegetation. Basically, they're going for insects. Breeding is extremely energy intensive, and so are laying eggs and raising the poults, which are the young. So just think about that for a food source. They're trying to breed and then they're trying to raise their young. So you're going to be looking for areas with a lot of bugs.
Hmm. Yeah, good spots to look at would be open areas, also new freshly burned areas. If you're hunting, if you have burned areas in your private land, that's awesome. If you're hunting public land, there's a lot of burn regimes that happen in the springtime. So that's somewhere to look around if you haven't scouted out those areas yet. If they're burning on your public land piece that you have a tag for, then you might be in luck to go out and try to find birds out there and eating the fresh bugs and the new growth.
They need space too to be able to do their strut, their display, to see each other. And even, if you find a spot that you're not sure, if they're gonna have to fight through a lot of brush to get through it, they're not gonna be as into it. They're like us, right? They're not gonna want to do that if they don't have to. So
Yeah, they tend to not walk through grasses that are higher than their beard height. So as you're scouting areas, if you're sitting on a field that is head high grass, they're not gonna like walk through that like a deer would to be in cover. They'd rather be in open woods or in a field, so that way
yeah,
they can
because
strut
they
around and
sight.
dance for.
Yeah, they need to see what's coming.
Hmm. So then fall,
So in
winter.
the fall and winter, oh, sorry,
Oh, you
which
got it.
isn't as big a deal for us right now, but there is a fall season. So if you're thinking about that, it's good to know that they tend to form much larger flocks overall. Their priority again, feeding going into winter, taking care of their young, especially as they start to, get bigger and kind of do their own thing. Um, as the insects and seeds start to go away, they tend to flip to things in mature forests. So they'll go more undercover, but they'll also start to switch to things like acorns, instead of insects. And then their home ranges do tend to shift, by several miles, but still the same rough area. So
Mhm.
their behavior does change quite a bit for fall versus spring. So it's just good to know your strategy going in.
It is, yeah, and it's important to know that as you're driving around, maybe or on your own property, and you see a flock of like 40 turkeys in the wintertime, be like, "Oh man, this place is loaded," and then the food changes, and then in the springtime you go back and no one's there, and they have moved off your property and they're in the a lower field in the near the river bottoms or something, and they're not up on your ridges anymore. But also something to think about also for fall hunting, which we are focused on spring hunting in this webinar, but uh, a lot of times the fall season is a $5 tag and you can take it and it mirrors the archery season for deer. So if you're already out deer hunting, you might get a $5 tag and it's more of an opportunity than actually trying to hunt them because you can't call them as easily in the fall. So they are, but the good news is that their food source has shifted and they match up with deer. So if they're in there eating acorns and things, the same spot you're looking for deer, you might have a good chance of seeing a bird in the fall and maybe take one with archery equipment if you're out archery hunting.
Just increases your chances of coming home with something.
Yeah.
So, like we talked about, in the spring, they need trees for food. daytime resting and escape cover, and then to roost at night. So turkeys will sleep in trees to be off the ground, away from predators, things like coyotes. The poults, once they're surprisingly young, they start to roost as well. So it's good to know, and they will all roost together. And then grasses, like we said, provide food for the adults, and then new poults as well for food and for the insects that are around it.
Mhm.
So just keep that in mind when you're scouting and e-scouting. Like you're looking for, some trees, but then also fields.
Yep. Yeah, having that diverse habitat really gives you the options that you're looking for. If you're looking at like a public land piece or a private land piece, and it's just a field or just maybe a hedgerow, that's not really a lot to hold the birds there. I mean, they might move through that in a day if it's against other property that also has a diverse landscape on it. But that's the ideal thing whenever we're hunting, especially for deer or for turkey, is finding that edge habitat, finding those transitions, and finding those multiple different types of food resources. And that's really where these animals are going to be at because they like variety and also different things come in season at different times. So having all those different things on your land piece is going to keep the birds there instead of having them have to move off to find something at a different time. So moving on, we're going to go now into regs. So we're going to go over like legal game and license permits, lottery applications, and everything else like that. So we'll move through here uh, as quick as we can. So this is the Hunting Digest. You can find digital versions of this. The image of this is the Hunter Trapper Digest, and these come out every year. Hopefully around August, maybe September each year. Hopefully before archery season starts, and so this is good through the end of this turkey season each year. But you can find them at your big box stores or your local sportsman shop. They should have copies of them. You can also get them at DNR locations, as well as you can download a copy, which I tend to do all the time. Just Google Hunter Digest for Illinois, and it comes up, and you can have a PDF on your phone, so you can reference it. And this is a kind of a cliff notes of the overall wildlife code. So there may be things in here that they may not have summarized quite well enough. For the most part, they do a great job. But if you find what you think is a loophole or you have a question about a regulation, please call a conservation officer to get clarification on that. Because just because it's not written in there and you think that you understand it a different way, that you might be wrong. So any type of clarification, please call a conservation officer. So, as we're talking about for legal game, in the springtime, it is a bearded bird. So that means Tom, Jakes, and hens that may have a visible beard. So that photo right there to the bottom right, that is a hen that has a beard. There's about 10% of hens that have beards. So you feel free to shoot a hen that has a beard. It's very unique. You don't see them very often. And maybe if you have the money to get a taxiderm, you might get the whole body taxidermed because that's so unique. In the fall time, you can shoot either bird because we're not worried about the mating season or the nesting season. So in the spring, we like to save those hens to help the population grow. But in the fall, if you come across a turkey, you could take one. You can do that with archery equipment. There's also a firearm season in certain counties, which we'll talk about, I believe, in a second. But there are firearm tags, and that's another lottery that you apply for to to get firearm tags in those certain counties that support that. For credentials, you're going to need your hunter safety education. If you're born prior to 1980, you do not need this, but if you're after that, you do. They do have in-person classes that I would suggest you go to. It's always better to learn in person, but they are hard to find because it is volunteer based. If you become a hunter and you love hunting, maybe this is something that you might look into in the future is volunteering as a hunter ed instructor because they don't have enough of them. So you can do this in person. If you're under the age of 12, then you have to have a field day. But if you're under the age of 18, you have to have a field day. If you're over the age of 18, you can do online certification and knock that out. If you're 18 or older, just go online. So then you also, for hunting turkey, if you want to use a firearm, you're going to need a FOID card. This is out of the state police. This is not a DNR required uh, thing. So if you have any questions about it, contact the state police. It's good for 10 years. And I think it's about ten bucks, and you send in there all the different things they need. And then it may take a month or two, or depending on how backed up they are to get that. So as soon as you think that you're going to want to own a firearm in Illinois, apply
Wait,
for this. Yeah, because it is famous for being backed up and taking a long time to get back to you. Sometimes they get back to you right away. Sometimes they don't. Depends on the situation. Licenses and permits required. So again, when you're applying, you need your base hunting license. So you purchase that first, and then as you're purchasing that, you get a state habitat stamp. This is not no longer a stamp. This is just a checkbox as you're buying your license electronically, and then you pay that fee, and then you then apply for your turkey permit, and we'll talk about how you get a turkey permit. Once you do get your turkey permit, either if it's via the lottery or over the counter, then you must sign it to make it official. So make sure you sign that right away as soon as you get it in the mail, so that way you're not in the field and forgot a pen, and you're going to tag your bird and you realize you hadn't signed it yet. Because even if you're in the field and you don't have a bird yet, and the officer finds it, comes and talks to you and looks at your credentials, if it's not signed, that's actually against the law. So you got to make sure you sign that, so that way it doesn't look like you're going to pass it off to someone else or something like that, even though your name and information is already on it. But again, sign that right away.
And don't lose it. Try to keep it. We usually
Yeah.
either clip ours to our calendar or like for the month it's for, because we'll get into it a little bit too, the way the season dates work, or we throw it in our glove box just so it's safe.
Yeah, I keep mine on top of my fridge because my wife's too short to reach up and grab it, so I know it's not going to move or get thrown out by accident. But the glove box of your car is really good to have too. That's where I keep all my windshield cards for public land sites. So real quick, permit types. So there's special hunt areas, and this is done by the lottery. This is to apply for hunting in Illinois public land sites that require this. So special hunt areas, we might also use a different word for special hunt area. We say specific site specific tag is something else that people say a lot, but it's special hunt area. Then you have a landowner permit, which is available to landowners. And then you have the county level tag, which is also available for the lottery and over the counter. This is for hunting on private land or federal land or county land. That is all available for the county tag. So you would apply for that very similarly as you would for the site specific tag, and we'll talk about that here in a second, or the special hunt area tag. So, understanding which tag you need to hunt a public land site, you can go to the back of the book of the Hunter Digest, and there's a table there, and it's the public hunting areas, and this is for Region 1. And you can see this table that a lot of people see and don't really look at. And if you zoom in on it, you can see that it has all the different species and then all the different public land sites that are found in Region 1, and they have all the regions back there. And you can see what tag it takes. So C is county permit, and S is a special hunt area permit. I like to say
We
site
we always
specific.
called them site specific, so I
I
think you
know.
should.
I'm struggling. All right.
Yep.
So your special hunt area permit. So you go down there and you see which ones have an S and which one have a C. So this is important because the S ones, there may be 50 tags available for a site. And if it's a smaller site, then there might be 10 tags available for the site per segment. So understanding if you have a spot that you want to go to and you don't know, they don't publicly post how many tags there are. If you call the site office, they might tell you, they might have an idea, but they don't post it anywhere, at least not for the first lottery. And then after the first lottery, the second lottery, they do post how many tags are left at each site. So you can kind of garner from that how many tags there might be altogether. But if you're stuck and you didn't get a site specific tag for the first lottery, I always suggest going back through and seeing which ones take a county level tag, because county, there could be a couple hundred tags available for the county, if not much more. So look for which ones have county level tags, and those ones are going to be larger sites that have a lot more turkeys on it, or a larger space that's safer to have more hunters on it to go after and see if you can get a tag for that. So those would be available much more readily than the site specific tags or the specific special hunt area tag. So the lottery is held in the fall. So if you are a new hunter and you're like, oh, I'm going to try turkey hunting this year, you're already out of luck, unfortunately, because a lot of the tags are gone already. And the first lottery is for residents only, and that starts in October 1st and goes to December 1st every year. So as you're sitting there and getting ready for Thanksgiving or thinking turkey for Thanksgiving, you should hop online real fast and apply because you still have the chance to apply right before the deadline on December 1st if you haven't applied yet. And then there's the second lottery that happens December 11th. So they give them like a week for them to process the lottery and people can see if they got a tag or not. And then after that, December 11th to January 13th is the second lottery, and that's open for non-residents and residents. And then the third lottery, at that point, on the third lottery, there's probably no more specific site tags left. So that's going to just be county level tags at that point. And then when there's tags that are left over even after that, then they go to over the counter, which you can have to go purchase at a vendor. They can't buy them online, so you have to go to Walmart. Depending on the county, some of those run out very quickly. So you might have to get there like when Walmart opens that morning to hop back into the sportsman's area there and get your tag. Other ones, they might still be tags available right now. So I don't really know what the tag count's at right now, but if you head down south, there's gonna be more than there are in the central and the north. So those are the lotteries. You can see for fall gun season, if you're curious, their first lottery, which is residents only, starts in May 7th and goes to July 1st. And then second lottery is July 12th to August 19th. And then over the counter is September 16th.
So if you think you might want to do fall firearm,
Hmm.
be prepared. This is from last year, so it'll be a little bit off, but
Oh,
just know
good call.
early May. Just, be ready.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for that, Lauren. Yeah. So early may be ready. Yep. And there we have over here in the words that you can apply as a group. We don't. That does not change your odds of getting picked. But if someone in your group does get picked, then you all get picked. So if you're planning on like a camping trip down to the Shawnee, which we do each year for it's the only way that we can do a mentored hunt and guarantee people can hunt is we have them apply for the county level tag on the first lottery, and then we go down to the Shawnee and go camping and take people out hunting for turkey backcountry style. Um, so you can apply as a group, and that way if you all get it, and then that means that your group trip won't be ruined if someone doesn't get a tag or not. So that way all of you can get a tag. Is there a question, Lauren? What was
No,
that?
I was dropping the link.
Oh,
We have a
nice.
video that goes through all this too, so you guys can kind of peruse it at your leisure, and we know it's a lot. So,
Yes. Yeah, I go through in that video how to apply for this, and I show resources that I use, which I'll show here in a second. But I go over and actually show with the sharing of my screen, and I click through everything and I apply. Um, Illinois DNR site specific regulations. So make sure that you understand. We say this all the time whenever anyone asks us a question about the specific site that they want to go hunting at, go check site specific regs because they are different at every public land site. These are for people's safety. It's because of maybe there's a campground there, so you might not be able to hunt certain areas. They may have different quotas. They may have different staff there that they can only man the check-in station every other Monday of the month. Like everyone's just different.
yeah,
Some
so
require
just think about
check-in.
the normal. Oh, sorry. I was thinking, just
Oh,
think
you
about
got.
the normal regs, like the book, the guidance is like the state, it's like the base.
Hmm.
And then from there, sites can be more restrictive. So just think about it that way. Like that's kind of like the basics of what you need to know, but you definitely make sure, because not every site's going to allow turkey hunting either,
Yep.
like Jason was saying. So it's good to it's a good starting point, and then from there, and you can always contact your site super, that's in the directory, and they're more than happy to answer any questions. Or your local
Yep.
CPO.
Yes. And so yeah, so examples may be yeah, you have check in, check out, you need a windshield card, you need to use non-toxic shot, like all that is important to know before you head out. Even if it's like the same season, same statewide regs with that, but when it comes to how the site operates, you got to know how that works. And how you find that out is you can go to huntillinois.org and then go and find the specific site that you're interested in, and then click on that, and that will show you the information that you need to know. For bag limits, we have one tom, jake, or bearded hen per permit, and you can allow three per spring. That's really for landowners or people hunting on private land because if you're doing a lottery and trying to hunt public land sites, you're probably only going to get one permit each year. And that's the hard part about turkey hunting is you only get like a week and you only get one permit a year if you're doing public land. So it's hard to get good at it if there's not a lot of repetition. Your rep is once a year to really try to get good at this. So it's challenging, but you can do it. So this is just a straight cutout from the digest. So these are the different season segments. So if you didn't know, the season is broken into 5 segments. Each one's about a week long. It's important to know that like the first season usually in the north is over a time period that doesn't involve a weekend. So if you don't have a job that allows you to take off in the middle of the week to go turkey hunting, don't apply for that. So always look at your calendar, see when you're available back in November when you're applying for this, to make sure that you're not wasting your picks. This Illinois is a long season, so we do see that in waterfowl as well, where they have different segments depending on the season, and the South tends to go before the North because the South gets warmer before the North. So, uh, so South, if you want to get down there early season, you can definitely head down south first, which starts about a week before the North does. And the time that you can hunt is a half hour before sunrise to 1 p.m. And this is because they want to make sure that the birds have opportunities to not be harassed by hunters who are out there calling them, so they have time to mate and can get up in their trees safely at night so that they can go roost. So again, this is because I think because the population was so low back in the 1900s that they just do everything they can to make sure the birds are successful. You can go to a different state that has a high bird population, or just a different state that has different regs, and they can go all the way to dark and hunt. So if you're new to Illinois, make sure you realize that that might be a change for you. Again, you can shoot any of the birds as long as they have a beard, and you are allowed up to 3 a season if you can find the tags for it. And there you go. So, turkey hunting, you're allowed to use shotgun or archery equipment for a legal method to take. Shotgun regulations have changed recently. So if you're new to hunting and you've never looked inside the digest before, every year, whenever they do a new law, it's going to be in yellow. It's going to be highlighted. So as you flip through the book, see what the highlighted sections are, because that might be new information that you might not have realized has been passed in the past year. So you're allowed a shotgun between 10 gauge to 20 gauge. And now, recently, you're allowed to use a 410 and 28 gauge, which is, if you're not familiar with that, that's a pretty small shotgun. Like a 410 shoots a shell that's about the size of my pinky. So it's really good for kids or anyone who doesn't like to have a big shotgun shell go into their shoulder. So they're really nice and light to carry around if you're doing a lot of movement. They have new technology now in the shells that you can use for those that allow them to be pretty lethal at a far enough range that they are now doing really great for turkey hunting. So check that out if you're interested in trying a new gun for turkey hunting, or if you have a youth or something like that that might not like their shoulder be beat up as bad as shooting a 12 gauge. And then
And
you
that should be for fall as well too. It
mhm.
would just the way it started this year, it started to be allowed this season. Not for the fall, but for fall of 2025, it should, also be allowed. So don't be too confused, like, oh, can I use it for one, not the
Oh,
other?
true.
It's good for both now.
Yes. Yeah. So this is from the 2024, 2025 uh, digest cutout. So I bet you the next year when the new one comes out before the fall season, it's just going to say um,
Mhm.
it's, whatever, and
Yeah,
whenever,
because that was
yeah,
my question.
it'll
Because
just
I was
add
like,
in.
so are we good for all now? So I just wanted to clarify because
Yeah.
not
Yep.
that I have either, but
I know. Yeah, I don't have a 410. Never needed one.
yeah.
Um, then again, you need to have a plug in your shotgun. If you're not familiar with what a plug is, it's basically just something that takes up space in your magazine. I know when I was a kid and I hunted in Pennsylvania for deer, we didn't need a plug in our shotgun, so I could have up to 6 shots in my magazine. And then but then when you go bird hunting out here, or when you come hunting out here, you need a plug in your shotgun. And that way your gun can only hold 3 shells. So that's 1 in the chamber and 2 in the magazine. So most guns come with a plug, so make sure that's in. So basically, you'd put 2 shells in, and then you wouldn't be able to put a third one in your magazine. That's gonna be one of the number one things that an officer checks if they come out and find you in the field. They'll check your credentials, and then they'll make sure that you have a plug in your gun. Because that's the easy one for them to investigate right away. For shot size, number 4 shot is as large as of a shot you can use. If you're not familiar with shot sizes, you can watch this video and kind of understand more about how picking the right ammunition for you and the differences on how to read a shotgun shell box. If you've never looked at a shotgun shell box before, there's a lot of numbers on it. There's gauges and velocity and weight and things like that. We have this great video that you can go through, and it's on our YouTube. It's on the Illinois Learn to Hunt YouTube page. So choosing the proper ammunition, and we go through how to read a box, how to pick the right ammunition for all the different species of animals that you might want to hunt. But for turkey, it goes to four, and four is bigger than five. So 4 to 6 is the range that you're going to want to use, and that's talking lead shot. So then you can use the steel equivalent of that, but 4 to 6 is your range. And then you also want to use a choke tube if your gun takes one. A lot of the old guns don't take them, and people tend to use full chokes when they're turkey hunting. It gives them a longer distance that is more of a kill radius, and for being able to shoot. I don't I shoot steel shot, so the choke tubes that you use are rated for different types of ammunition, and I don't use toxic shot. I use steel shot, so I just have improved cylinder because steel is a hard substance, and if you choke it down to a full choke, it may damage your gun barrel if the choke isn't rated for steel shot. So you could bell out your gun barrel, or even like pop your choke out the bot, like it might like a cork, take the whole dang choke out with it. So it could damage your gun pretty significantly. So just make sure you read all the fine print on all the chokes that you use. Make sure you're utilizing the right uh, shot type for it, and just make sure you read all the little fine prints on your gun, and make sure that your gun takes the shell length that's appropriate for your gun, as well as the shot type that your shot's made out of.
Yeah,
So yeah,
everything needs to match.
mhm. So then, post harvest, you're going to want to make sure you tag your bird right away. And then after tagging your bird, you can transport it, but you got to make sure that you call it in by 10 p.m. and report it. This is very similar to deer, and then go through the reporting process. This is all written on your tag on how to go through that. You can either do it online, or you can call a toll-free number and give them all the information. They're going to ask you to take some measurements, like the beard measurement and the spur measurement.
Spurs
Yeah, so
to
uh,
help age the bird because they basically
help
use
age
it
the
as like
bird.
a
Yep.
survey of the birds. You also need to notch your tag, which we don't have an image of, but literally you just have to cut
Hmm.
to basically invalidate it or validate it depending on how you look at it, but so it can't be used again.
Yep.
But that's
Yeah.
another
So
thing they check.
first you gotta sign it, and then when you actually kill something with it, then you gotta notch it. So then your tag's used, and you can't use it again. Uh, yeah, it's always worried about like transporting the animal in your car, and then if you get pulled over and you get away with it, then you can always take that tag off that bird and then do it back out and try to shoot something else. So you have to notch it, so it gives them a reason that you've used the tag. And you're not allowed to butcher the bird until it's registered. So where I hunt at, I can't. There's no cell service. So basically, I'm tagging the bird, driving to the closest gas station, pulling over, and then doing all my measurements in the gas station parking lot. So that way, I'm clear for the day and not have to worry about it. You do not need to field dress the bird right away. You can. We aren't going to cover it today, but I mentioned it, so I might as well cover it. But we'll talk about it in 102. But there's a couple ways that you can clean a turkey. So you can either you can cut them underneath their breastbone, and then just like a kind of Thanksgiving style, you reach up, grab hold of everything, pull it all out, and that's as easy as that. And you can keep the gizzard, keep the heart, keep the liver if you want to, and you can eat those different organs. But you can also just breast them out, where you open up the breast, and we have a video on that as well on how to clean a turkey. And you just remove the breast meat and the leg meat and the legs, the drumsticks and the thighs, and then you can discard the rest because there's really not much meat on anything else. So anyway, so don't do any of that until you call and register your bird at before 10 p.m. on the day you harvested it.
Yeah, it's not like with deer where you have to, unless it's very, very hot, where you need to field dress it. Most things aren't unless it's very, very hot.
Yeah.
Deer are kind of the exception.
Yep. And then clothing regs. So you don't need orange or blaze pink when you're out and about. Again, turkey can see very well. So, and Lauren has already said this, but as you're moving around, throw some orange on. This is the only time that we're going to be hunting in the woods where we're hunting something that's on the ground, and unlike a squirrel or small game or dove or something that's flying around, where you wouldn't wear orange also. But this is something that's going to be on the ground, and you want to be visible to other hunters, especially if you're on public land, or even if you're on private land and someone might be hunting on the land piece next to you. It's just good to be safe. This is
Yeah.
going to be the highest risk you're going to have of possibly getting shot in any type of hunting. The number one way hunters get hurt is going to be heart attack or falling out of tree stands. So luckily, getting shot is not likely, but this is going to be the most likely time that you might happen because you're on the ground and you're all out there with guns and things. So please be careful. Make sure you're wearing that orange. It doesn't hurt to just have it in your backpack, throw it on, and then be
And
safe.
don't have blue, white, or red. Don't make yourself
Yeah.
look like a gobbler head.
hmm So then, here's just some random regulations that we like to talk about that people may not realize if they don't read through the digest carefully before going out hunting. You cannot use electronic collars. So you can use electronic collars. Really, the only thing I know you can use electronic collars for is going to be like coyotes and things to use a predator call. But when it comes to turkeys, you cannot use electronic collars. You have to use your call. Either don't use the call or use the calls that we're going to talk about in the calling webinar to call in the turkey. You cannot use your phone or any microphone or electronic device. You may not harvest a wild turkey by use of a bait. So don't no baiting. You no calling them before the season. You're allowed to use locator calls, and we'll talk about that in the calling webinar as well. But basically, like crow and owl calls can do a shot gobble, and it makes the turkeys call because they're so revved up with testosterone and stuff that they're gonna like come almost challenge any loud noise they're gonna gobble at. So you can use a hoot or you can use a crow, and then you can roost the bird that way, and that's a hunting tactic. So that way you can go out in the evening, the day before the season, and do a locator call, so that way you know where they're at, and then go back the next morning to hunt that spot the next morning. So that's a very common tactic to use while turkey hunting. But no going out and making any turkey noises from March 15th to the day before your hunt, or day before the season starts, depending on what zone you're in. So don't do that. And you cannot legally shoot a bird out of a tree before 7 a.m. So they do roost in trees. As a hunter, I mean, that's the one where it's like your personal ethic of, am I cool with shooting a bird out of a tree, or do I want to have them come to me because I called them in? So you may never want to shoot a bird out of a tree as a personal ethic, but you're allowed to after 7 o'clock. For shot placement, we are aiming where the feathers end and the neck starts. This gives you the best chance of hitting the vitals of the bird. A lot of people don't realize is that when you shoot your shot off, about like 70% of the shot goes high and then 30% goes low. So aiming at the spot allows for maximum pellets hitting the head versus aiming straight at the head, where a lot of shots might go over the bird's head. And it's also not just shot going into the bird that's killing it, but it's also the momentum of the shot hitting it and breaking the neck as well. So all that combined, that makes it the most lethal spot to shoot them is going to be at the base of the neck. Um, and also important to realize that when they're strutting, that their heads are tucked in, their neck is super protected at that point. So making similar if you're a deer hunter and people go like meh, to stop a deer for archery or for gun season, make it stop moving. You can do a cluck. You can do that with your mouth or with a mouth call, and allow them to kind of like meerkat, like pop their head up real quick to like look around and then shoot. But only do that when like you're in ready to go, finger on
Ready.
trigger, and you're not going to move because they can see movement very well. So that's a good way to do that. So that way you can get the safest and most effective shot on the bird.
And for new hunters too, it's very common. One of the reasons they tend to go even higher because you're so excited about like what you're doing, and finding a bird, you tend to not bring your head all the way down to your shotgun, like to the stock. So just be aware of that as well, that like you're gonna have adrenaline going. So you're not gonna be, even if you're normally a great shot, you're probably not gonna be amazing at it. So just keep that in mind.
So we suggest you pattern shotgun. It is difficult to find a spot that you're able to do this at. So I'm not gonna lie to you. It's finding ranges that allow this. A lot of ranges don't allow it. They I don't various reasons, and also a lot of publics. There's not a lot of public ranges in Illinois. So you may we've I don't even want to say this, but we've gone to like different states to site in our guns for deer season because we couldn't find room at a range near us. So we've gone over to like Indiana and stuff to find range time. But you might be able to find a sporting club near you,
You know, if you have
or
a friend that'll let you come along,
you got a
that's what I
friend.
did last year.
Get someone who has a field and you can put up a piece of cardboard in a field and shoot it off of a 2x4 or something like that. Something safe and allows you to pattern a shotgun. Basically, what this means is that because there's no sights on a shotgun, you're just using the bead at the end of a barrel. You're not really aiming, you're just pointing in reality. And those can shoot weird depending on the shot that you're using. I know Curtis, our coworker, can't shoot 3.5-inch shells out of his gun because just goes it goes crazy. So he keeps them at 3 inches. Dan's gun shoots high into the right, no matter what shells he uses, and so the only way they know that is because they pattern their shotgun. So basically, you would go at different distance. You'd pick the shell that you want to hunt with, and then go to different distances at like 10, 20, 30, 40 yards, and then make sure that you have a lethal shot size, a lethal amount of shot in the circle that you're drawing, usually like the size of a paper plate, to see when it becomes an unethical range. So maybe your gun's only good to 30 yards with the type of shot you're using, and also maybe it shoots high into the right. So then you need to adjust your shot for that. And again, here, this isn't, you can grab this image and kind of make it big and small, but so it's more of a reference, not exact size of the shot type. But you can see 4 is the largest that you would do. 4 to 6 would be turkey range. Okay. Archery is very difficult for turkey hunting because you got, again, they can see movement really well. So if you're doing traditional archery with a crossbow, or not crossbow, with a compound bow, you're gonna need to be very good at archery hunting to get a turkey. So if you want to build up to that and you're able to do that, that's fantastic. You can also use a crossbow now, so you can also use that as well. So here's all the different regulations for what you need the poundage for a bow. So it's about 30-pound draw with 28-inch. Draw with arrow needs to be 20 inches, not including the tip. For crossbow, it's 125-pound pull, which is the majority of all crossbows at this point. And then a 24-inch draw length and a 14-inch bolt, not counting the tip. Then broadheads can be either whenever I'm shooting them with archery equipment, I'm hunting with my deer stuff anyway. Honestly, I shot one once because I came across a flock and busted them, and then they came back together again in the fall when I was walking to my tree stand, and it was the same broadhead I used for deer season. And I have a fly. um, so yeah, so just use whatever you're using for deer. You can shoot a turkey with. I know they have those guillotine blades. If you want to use a guillotine blade, go for it. That's look like a flat razor blade that if you shoot at the base of the neck, it basically lops the head off. If that's something you're interested in, try it out. I've never tried one before. So yeah, so then yeah, 7/8 inch cut on the diameter. Um, no electric GPS for your bows and arrows. You can't use that for deer either. And honestly, you're gonna probably blow through the turkey. It's not gonna stuck. Depending on what you hit, I don't know. But when I shot my turkey, it went right through it, and it ran 10 yards and fell over. So aiming, because the turkey is full of feathers, you could actually probably shoot if you aimed at the top of if you missed, you could probably hit up here and just blow through feathers and not hit any body part at all. So it's good to aim at body markings. So we would aim if you want to aim at the head, go for it. I would suggest aiming at the body mass, so center mass, and you'd aim where the wing meets the body on either side. Best shot, honestly, if I was using traditional archery equipment, would be if a turkey was strutting in front of me, I'd wait for it to turn and have its fan up like that, and then pull back because a turkey's vision is over 200 degrees, and I mean 270. So the only thing they can't see is directly behind them because their head's so small and their eyes are so bulby, they can see almost everywhere. So the best shot you're going to have is going to be that right where the fan meets shot. If a turkey's looking at you, aim right where the beard is, or at the head. So now, where can you go hunting? Also, did you put a link, Lauren, or was there a question?
Chris said that for anybody near North-ish Illinois, Silver Springs State Fish and Wildlife Area has a dirt mound on their trap range that you can use for patterning.
Oh,
So there's a good
fantastic.
tip.
All right. Remember that. Write that one down because we have people ask us all the time.
I know, right? Like I'm
Uh,
like, oh.
sorry. Yeah, thanks, Chris. Hopefully, there won't be a line there now, but no, that's good to know. We'll meet you there. Uh, so for land access, so here are those different regions if you've never seen the regions of the state. So when I said like region one, two to five, so there's hunting preserves and outfitters and things like that you can go hunt on. There's also public land that look like federal, state, county, as well as IRAP opportunities, and then there's private land. Illinois is majority private land. I mean, it's like 1.2% public land. So the majority of it is privately owned, but we do have public sites all over the state, and they do tend to be along river bottoms where people haven't been able to farm. and it's where the state was able to buy land. So yeah, the Shawnee National Forest down south, those are also all state ran sites that are all down south there, and not too much near Chicago. So sorry, people up in Chicago, you're going to be driving an hour or so outside of the city to try to find some land. I got to drive 45 minutes, and I live in Champaign, so it's it's rough, but you can do it. So to find a location, you can go on huntillinois.org,
Illinois.
and they have a list of all different spots that are available in alphabetical order. And you can kind of go through that and see where these different spots are at and their names and see if they offer turkey hunting. So if I had a site near me that I was interested in seeing if they had turkey hunting available there, I would go to like Google Maps and see what public land sites were near me, and then I'd pull up Green River here, and then I would go to huntillinois.org, and then I'd scroll down to site-specific regulations, and then hit turkey, and then see what their spring season looks like here, and you can see that does require one of those site-specific turkey permits. So see, even they say site-specific turkey permits. Um, so you have to get one of those in a lottery. So they do limit the number of hunters per day. So that's obvious because you need to win the lottery to do it. Standby hunting is not allowed, and all turkeys harvested on the site must be checked in with the state system by 10 p.m. And hunters should report turkeys as on a special hunt area and not as harvested in Lee County. So don't say it's a county tag. Make sure you say it's this specific spot tag. And that's also important to realize when you do go into for the lottery. The counties and the site-specific tags are right next to each other in the list. So I know one that gets changed up a lot is Piatt County versus Weldon Springs Piatt County unit, and that's in central Illinois, and it's within Piatt County. And I've gotten emailed before of someone who clicked Piatt County because they are used to calling the public land site Piatt County unit, but it wasn't. It was Weldon Springs. So make sure you know the name of the public land site that you're applying for, and make sure you select that and not the county. Because if you pick the county and it's a county that doesn't have any of those sites that accept a county level tag, then you're out of luck for that season. You basically just donated to the DNR. Um, so yeah, so go through, look at the site specific regulations, see if they have turkeys there, and then you can also pull up the map. I know, unfortunately, this is not working right now. So this is what it used to look like, and hopefully they fixed the bug that is right now happening with the huntillinois.org page. But you can also do this on Google Map. But this is using their map that right now is crashed. So on it, they had layers where you could see the boundary of the site, and you can see the different parking spots are in the blue boxes. And then you could click on the layer that said spring firearm season for turkey, and it would highlight where you were allowed a turkey hunt at. And you could see that what we were talking about before, this might be a good turkey spot because you have a diverse, you have woodlands, you have ag fields, you have there might be some type of river. Yeah, it looks like there's a river that goes right through there. Yeah, well, Green River. Duh. Okay, so there's a river that goes through there. And so all that looks great. So then another thing that you could look at to see if there's actually turkeys being harvested off of there, because just because a site allows turkey hunting might not mean that's a good site that has a lot of turkey on it. So you can go to the public lands hunting report, and you can look up the specific animal that you're looking to hunt on that public land and see how many have been taken. So when it comes to spring turkey season, you know that it's a lottery system, right? So, and probably a third of people are probably successful, and if that. So you can kind of guess how many tags are given out per year if you don't know, if you haven't called the site to ask or anything like that. You can try to guess how many tags there might be. So Green River has 11 turkey taken off of it in 2019. So that would might be a decent site to try to get to if it's near you, if it's within driving distance where you want to hunt at.
And a quick note too, public land hunting reports are also like public land areas or something, I think is what they're actually referred to as. It's another one of those things where like everybody kind of calls it what it's not. So just be aware
Yeah.
if you find it and you're like, I can't find these hunting reports. That's what people are talking about. Yeah, the public hunting areas. Just be aware, you know.
Hmm. Yeah. And sometimes you might look at these numbers and sometimes they might not be correct, or some years they may report and then other years they don't. It might be a blank. I've seen that too. So how you get around that is click on multiple years and look at the trend. Don't just look at what happened last year, but click on the past like 5, 6, 7 years and see what they're reporting. Because if they're making a mistake, it might be likely they only made it once, hopefully. And then when you go back and see other years where, like, say there's like 70 turkey like off of a little piece, and then the next year before that it was only 10. So someone probably meant to put in seven, and they just messed up the XL entry. So that does happen. So double check their numbers. And then there's the IRAP program, which allows for hunters to try to get on the private land pieces, and private landowners can apply can take part in this program, and then they get a management plan from the state. So it's this awesome access program that they've started up. It's because the state probably isn't going to buy more land anytime soon. So this is a way that we can find more access and more opportunity for hunters, which it's a win-win for the landowners who might not be hunting on their own property, and allows access to hunters. If you haven't bought a license in the past 3 years, you are already prioritized in this lottery. So if you're a first-time hunter or a hunter who hasn't hunted very much recently, they will put you at the front of the line. So go onto the IRAP program and see how they do their application. It's another lottery. Unfortunately, this one is kind of weird. They make you buy a county level tag first. So I would have a backup plan if I was you. If I was going to go hunt like a Shawnee or a public site that allowed that county level tag, then I would buy that county level tag, and then apply for the IRAP. And then if I get the IRAP, awesome, I'll go hunt the IRAP site if they have turkey there. If not, then I would use my backup plan. That's what I would do personally. Or if I had already gotten a tag in the first lottery for a private land or for a public land site, and I'm good to go for the season. And then the second lottery, I know there's not a lot of oh my gosh, I'm mixing up my private and my public, guys. Sorry. Okay. If I got a public land tag in the first lottery, and then the second lottery, I wanted to try to get another tag, I would then apply for the county level tag and then apply for IRAP with that county level tag. So that way I would at least have a backup plan if I got stuck with the county level tag that I couldn't use, is my point. Okay.
Yes. And you have to plan for IRAP too, so just be aware, like when you're doing all your stuff, just start looking into it well in advance.
Yeah. Okay, so like I said, 96% of Illinois is private land at this point. So there's also leases out there if you're willing to pay for a lease or anything like that. A lot of times, I mean, turkey isn't as sought after as deer. So if you have a local farmer near you and you can become friends with them, you can offer to help them out. That's how it was old school. I know a lot of guys who send letters to people and for like handwritten letters, mail it in the mail to the farmer and try to ask for permission that way. If you're willing to and you want to put in the effort, you can find private land to hunt still and not pay out your nose for it. So there's options out there. But again, utilizing that Shawnee National Forest that's down south, as well as county level tags for different sites around, you should be able to get a hand on a tag every year if you don't get one in the lottery. This is just for new people who might not be out in the woods often. If you see posted signs, don't cross that line. A lot of times the state sites will have little signs up along the borders, and you can see when you're about to get off property. But adjacent properties, knowing that there's going to be hunters on that land, tend to put up signs. But I want to make sure you understand the purple paint law. That's not like a trail marker, like you're not like walking down a hiking trail. That is a land marker. So that means that you're on a property line. So the purple paint law is just as good as a no hunting sign or no trespassing sign. So you see purple paint, that is someone marking their property border.
Oh, and I had a question at our workshop over the weekend too. If you shoot something like deer, turkey, whatever, and it goes onto private land, you cannot go get it unless you have permission from that landowner. So just
hmm
because you got it, and I know it seems like it's the more ethical thing to do to be able to go get it, you have to get permission. So just since that came up recently, I did want to highlight that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And hunting turkeys, if you shoot a turkey, ideally you hit them in a spot where they're not going to run like a deer, like we're going to be tracking them for a mile, like in some horror stories that you have with deer hunting. That happens to everybody. So if you're hunting and you're on a border and you're within 20 yards of a property line with have the risk of a turkey being shot and then running the 20 yards it might run, that's a risk you're taking. So I would try to set up, even if it's really good habitat and you know the turkey's going to be there, I would try to stay probably at least 100 or so yards away from any property line when turkey hunting. So that way it would cut the risk down of that happening. Um, So use that at your own risk. But I think we're talking to someone at one of our workshops that you might not have been there, Lauren, might have been the one before yours, but he was talking about how he had a dispute with a landowner where he set up around the property line with his decoys were on the public land site, but he was so close that the property owner was farming at the time because it's planting season later in the season, and he was giving him some crap for it, and then a conservation officer had to come out and be like, "Hey, man, you're not on his land, but you." He's like, he had to just diffuse the situation. Like no one got in trouble, but the guy just, it was more worth it, him just moving off the property line than sitting on the property
Yeah.
line. And that's just how it is. So that doesn't happen too often, but you're taking it at risk if you're that close. That's my point. Okay, real quick, we're just going to go over the different vocalizations that are common in turkeys, and we'll run through them. We're going to have them play over the sound of my computer. So if you're wearing headphones right now, just a headphone warning
Be
and a
aware.
volume warning. Yeah, so they might be louder than what my voice is right now. So just a heads up. We'll do the gobble first, and then the other vocalizations here. So this is the gobble. This is what the males use to find each other, not each other, to find hens and attract hens in the springtime. So you can hear what that sounds like if you've never heard a gobble before. So that's not really a sound that we're making, but it's a sound that we're attracted to in the morning. So if you hear that, then head that way. And we'll talk about the strategies of how to do that in 102. But so that's going to be the noise that we're going to be keying in on. We tell people not, they do make gobble calls that you can make the gobble with, but you could do that to challenge another gobbler and make them come in and try to fight you. Like that's kind of the aggression of the gobble call, or using it as a locator call to try to make other gobbles gobble back to you. But what you're going to do is you're going to make yourself known to other hunters, and the other hunters might walk in your direction. So when you're out, especially on public land, which a lot of new hunters are, we don't make the gobble call.
And just remember too, when we're hunting in the spring, like gobblers are trying to call hens to them to flip that. We're trying to be a hen, pretending we're a hen that's calling a gobbler in. So kind of think about it that way anyway. It's not really that helpful of a sound for the most part with the general approach. That's, pretty
Yeah.
effective. So
Yeah, it's more of a locator, if anything, if you're ever
yeah.
going to be making that noise. Um, okay, so then Yelp is something that you will make. This is going to be one of the main calls that you make. You could kill a turkey just knowing how to do a Yelp call. And to focus on this, which is they're going to tell you whenever if you come and join us for the other webinars, is it's about the cadence of the Yelp, and you'll hear it. It's going to be about 6 to 7 notes, and it's going to be like Yelp, 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 and it's going to be the cadence of the Yelp. And so if you're on a call and you're making these calls, don't feel bad if you sound like a weird turkey or if it's squeaks or whatever. All turkeys sound different, but what they're going to be listening for is the cadence. And this is going to be a very basic vocalization where they're just talking to each other, and it doesn't really have any aggression towards it or anything. All turkeys make this noise. So here is the yelp. So there you go. One more time. So yeah, so if you can hit that cadence, you can get a turkey to come over to where you're at. Then we have a cluck. So this is like a single, almost a single yelp almost. So it's a shorter yelp. It's just a cluck. Imagine this being like chickens in a pen, and they're just talking to each other. They're not trying to locate each other. They know where they're at. And a lot of times when you do a call, which you'll hear about in the other webinars, but it's a call in cadence where you're mixing in yelps, clucks, and purrs more than any of the other calls. And that is kind of going to make your calls sound like. So as you're yelping, then after you yelp, then you'll do a couple clucks, and then you'll do maybe a purr and then a yelp again, or you'll get the hang of it, and you just mix it all together to what you think sounds like what a turkey might be sounding like. So here is a cluck. It's a short little note, and it's just them to get the attention of another turkey. So this would be the noise that you would make to make them lift their head up to shoot them. If they're in a strut, you'd make a cluck noise, and then they'd pop their head up, and then you'd shoot them. So there you go. So it's just real short. So then you imagine go like yelp, 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 click. cluck, 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 yelp, 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 yelp. So just kind of mixing it together. This is a Kiki run or Kiki. This is a I'm lost call. You can use this in the fall because you're going to use this when they're flocked up. So in the fall, when they're all flocked up, if you ever break them apart, like say you're walking to your tree stand to go deer hunting, the flock breaks apart. I know our buddy Curtis, who's a coworker, he walks in the woods with a turkey call in his mouth when he's deer hunting because if he ever thinks that he make too much noise, it'll start making turkey noises and it'll pretend to be like a turkey scratching for acorns or something. So that's his cover call. But if you go in and you happen to have a turkey call on you, especially a mouth call, because that's the only way you're going to make this noise. If you break up a site or a flock, then you can do this to bring them all back together again to your location because it basically is like you crying out saying that you're lost. So yeah, so if you have a mouth call in your mouth, you can see visualize how you might be able to make that noise. So it's like a key 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 key. So that's a key run. Purr is going to be that you're a content bird, you're feeding. Whenever I make turkey calls, I try to imagine a video of a hen and I try to do like the soundtrack to that video. And if I'm making calls that is either too many calls or it just seems like if I can imagine a hen making the calls I'm making and she looks like she's going crazy and she's just doing too much, then I'm calling too much. So I try to do the soundtrack of a hen that's like chill and walking through a little meadow and as happy as could be and she's calling out a tom and she's eating some bugs and she's purring and is happy. So again, this is like the noise that you might get if you walk around the petting zoo or whatever and you see a bunch of chickens. This is going to be like the noise that they make when you feed them and they're happy and they're just content and everything's cool. They're not upset. They're not freaked out. There's no alertness to it. It's just I'm happy turkey right now. I'm eating bugs. It's the springtime. So here it is. So it's like a bubbly noise. And we'll show you how you can make that on a call and the other webinars if you want to come learn about that. So you can make that call on almost any of the calls that the pot call or the mouth call or the box call. You can make that bubbly noise that shows that you're content. This is going to be a cut, and this is you can hear this over a great distance, and it is kind of another. It's almost like a cluck, but a more aggressive cluck. This might be a bird that is upset or there's something weird going on. So you might use this when you're trying to challenge a hen and you're trying to overcall a hen. If a tom's henned up and the tom doesn't want to come in because he's already with a hen and he's not attracted to you at all, you can try to outcall the hen and you can throw some cuts in there and some clucks and more aggressive calls to try to make the hen mad. So that way the hen comes over because the hen is happy to be with the tom at the moment. And then she's going to bring the tom with her. So that's is when you might use a cut noise. And then you might mess that up and accidentally said, "Hey, there's a coyote over here," and then they all run away. So so use it at your own discretion. But you might, as you figure it out, calling is an art, and you'll figure that all out as you go through it. We have this in here so that way you can reference this. We're going to send you this PowerPoint so that way you can go through and see all the different reasons why the different vocalizations exist and what we know about them, at least for what we've seen in the field. All right, so that's the end of 101. So it's 7:45. We nailed it. So Illinois Learn to Hunt. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and our YouTube. At this point, our YouTube has grown up to the point where literally everything that we know about hunting is now on our YouTube page. Go check it out. We have all of our other webinars are on there, as well as how-to videos and all of our podcasts and things. So check out our YouTube page. I think it's the best source for information. We also have our website, which is Illinois Learn to Hunt. learntohuntil.com. And you can find a lot of stuff there. Lauren's updating that constantly. You're doing a great job with that. There's a new deer page there, which is basically a deer textbook. And now she's doing that for turkey. And she's
Yeah,
taking
turkey
all,
should hopefully last round of edits. So hopefully in the next
yeah,
few weeks it should be up. So and it's this and more, lots of diagrams. So
it's
and lots of
amazing.
stuff to download too. So
Yes. No, you're doing a fantastic job with that. And it's really adding to the website and making it something worth going to. And it's going to be a great resource for folks who find it. So please check that out. So right now, if you have any questions in the chat, please let us know. If not, we'll get going. Thanks for coming. Hopefully it was a good intro for the regs and how to find land. And like I said, we'll focus more on calling, decoys, and strategy next time.
Like Jason said, our YouTube page, we have a whole turkey playlist. So
Yes.
I got one new message.
Thank you, Shannon. Yep.
Thanks, Shannon.
Yeah, it's a lot of information to take in at once. We understand.
Yeah, there's different seasons. You can use different things. The site versus county, like it's a lot.
Yeah. Hopefully, if you don't have a tag, you can try to find spots to utilize a tag. The Shawnee is broken up into a lot of small parcels too. If it's somewhere you've never been before, having one of those, we use Hunt Stand. I use Hunt Stand. Other guys use OnX Hunt, and having those mapping apps that show you who owns what land piece is almost required down there if you ever go hunting down there. So just keep that in mind. The Shawnee is not just a giant park. That's just a giant continuous park. It's like parcels that have been bought up over time.
I mean, same thing for anybody who goes to Hack and Tag,
Hmm.
Save It, U.S. Fish and Wildlife too. It's a bunch of different. It's a collection of sites. So
Yeah. And the Crab Orchard is another large federal site down south. That's a cool one if you want to look up Crab Orchard. There might still be tags available for down there. I'm not sure though. All right. If we have no other questions, we'll get going.
awesome. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.